Yo, welcome back to another video. Before we get started, shout out to everyone who's subbed and is also liking and commenting. I appreciate it. Today, it's going to be quite a controversial one, but I'm going to explore if Yoda, simply put, is a fraud. Does his contributions in the films match up to what he is? A Grand Master, one of pop culture's most famous characters, and a fan favorite in the Star Wars community. I'll be pinpointing some moments in the movies only, so no comics, no Clone Wars, just the movies, that can earn him positive points and negative points, and we'll add it up in the end and see what that says. I will give my own personal opinion towards the end of the video, but yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into this. So we'll start from the Phantom Menace, and in particular the scene when Anakin is being tested by Mace Windu, and Yoda gives the whole "fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering" quote. This is quite an iconic quote now for Yoda as a character, for the prequels and for Star Wars, and ultimately it ended up being true, especially in the life of Anakin Skywalker. It basically foreshadowed his turn to the dark side, and this earns Yoda a positive point because it just proves how wise this guy really was. The next scene I want to talk about is Qui-Gon saying he'll train Anakin. This doesn't count for any points. I just want to eliminate this thought that people think that Yoda is the first one to shut down the whole idea. It's actually Mace Windu. Yoda's actually quite on the fence about this. If he agreed with Windu from the get-go, I just don't see a world in which Anakin would still get trained, because both of their opinions outrank anything anyone else has to say. And lastly, with the Phantom Menace, is Yoda's last scene, in which he finally gives his actual opinion, in which he doesn't want Anakin to be trained. And this is despite Anakin blowing up the Trade Federation ship, by the way. But he says that there's grave danger in the boy's training. Obi-Wan keeps insisting he will have to train Anakin, and Yoda starts to get quite frustrated. He stomps his walking stick, he starts grunting, he sighs. But I thought anger leads to hate, hate leads to... Never mind. He then gives in to Obi-Wan's defiance, which kind of shows Yoda has no authority. And now I understand there's a difference between being a leader and listening to someone and taking that into consideration. But the fact that he just flip-flopped and went from, "we're not training him," and then 5 minutes later, "oh yeah, no, yeah, we'll train him, fine, whatever." I think I'm giving him a negative point for that, because you need to be 100% sure and assertive to show everyone who's leader, especially with huge decisions that could end up costing you in the future. And if it goes wrong, everyone knows that you're the person responsible for this. Now, I want to move to Attack of the Clones, and the very start of the film, straight after Padme's decoy gets killed, Palpatine asks Yoda if he thinks there'll be a war, and Yoda basically says, "the dark side clouds everything, so it's impossible to see the future." He takes half an L here. The fact that it's been 10 years since Darth Maul got killed, and you haven't been able to get any clues on who the second Sith is in the Rule of Two. You just wonder what they've been doing for these last 10 years. Now, the second part of the L, which contributes to one negative point, in my opinion, is shortly after Padme accuses Dooku of being the murderer, the Jedi immediately shut her down, especially Mace Windu, and Yoda just says, "yeah, you're in danger." Like, we didn't just see Padme's decoy get killed. And Yoda doesn't even entertain the Dooku accusation, probably because that was his former apprentice and he's probably ashamed about that whole situation, who knows. The next big scene is when Obi-Wan tells Yoda that he can't find a planet on the system, and Yoda along with the younglings help him to find out why this could be, and Yoda eventually says that only a Jedi could have erased the data, and with information this concerning, guess what they do next? Nothing. This never gets mentioned again. You've been hacked from within. Something important has been deleted, and there's no investigation. They don't care about it. It's irrelevant. I don't know if it's arrogance from Yoda. They think it's all under control anyways. They don't care. I don't know what the deal is, but he's the Grand Master, he's the guy with the responsibility, and negative point for him. Now, to my next point, Obi-Wan is ready to leave Kamino. He reports back everything about Jango Fett, Sifo Dyas. He asks in particular, did the Council ever authorize the creation of the clone army? Mace Windu says no, and after the conversation, Yoda ends up saying that they've been blinded if they couldn't see the creation of the clone army. The guy doesn't bother to connect that all of this information is coming from the exact same planet that was deleted from the database. Would you not start to question, if all of this is coming out, and we've been put in a position where we can't access or see this planet. Is this not something fishy? But of course, because he's the only one that seems to realize that the planet is missing, because Obi-Wan came to him, and he hasn't told other Jedi that this is a thing, only he could really connect these things, and he doesn't bother to do that. So, you know what? Another negative point. Now, the following two scenes I'm not going to count as points. However, for me, it's just quite concerning. The first one being when Yoda senses Anakin is in pain and he is quote-unquote suffering. He never confronts him about it. He never asks him, yo, are you okay? Is there any way we can help? What's going on? Nothing about that. The second one being Yoda goes directly to Kamino. He's there in person to see everything. He can't sense anything. He doesn't question anything. They've just been given a free army and he just takes it. Nothing suspicious. Yeah, someone just conveniently made this clone army and we'll just use it. Yep, sure. Definitely nothing suspicious about it. Now we'll move on to a positive point, which is Yoda coming in clutch with the clone army to save all the Jedi on Geonosis. It's more of a right place, right time, but I'll just give him the point because he clutched up big for all of them. Now, lastly, for Attack of the Clones, one of the end scenes is Obi-Wan asking, is what Dooku said about Sidious controlling the Senate true? And Yoda completely dismisses it. He doesn't even entertain it again. He just says, creating mistrust are his ways. And then he agrees when Windu says to keep a closer eye on the Senate. But this never gets mentioned again. It never actually gets done. It's all talk, but no action. And the only time they start to get concerned is when they hear that Palpatine is trying to remain longer in his position. That's the only time. They had a 3-year head start. They've been told by Dooku there's a Darth Sidious, and nothing happens. Yoda just judges a book by its cover and, oh yeah, that's his ways. He's the Sith now, so he must be lying. And that's it. So I don't know. I think that's a negative point, personally. Revenge of the Sith time, and Anakin comes to Yoda about the premonitions of Padme dying. And ultimately, the amazing advice here from Yoda is, mourn them do not, miss them do not. And then Anakin says, so what should I do? And Yoda says, train yourself to let go. Amazing advice, Yoda. Well done. Just well done. Congratulations. You got yourself another negative point. Now let's move on to Yoda versus the Emperor. Yoda fumbles the bag big time. Crumbellini settings. Obi, he did his job 13 years ago, killing Darth Maul. He just killed Grievous. He just defeated Anakin. Even Anakin defeated Dooku. The Emperor is the last man standing. You have one task. I know it's the hardest task of them all, but you are Grand Master Yoda after all, so you should be able to get the job done. But no. And when he gets knocked down to the bottom of the Senate chamber, he just runs away when the war can be finished right there and then if he wins. No one should be leaving that room until a body drops cold. And it's not the case where you can say, but Yoda was saving himself to be able to train the next generation and save other Jedi. Because the first thing he says when he gets picked up is, into exile I must go. Failed I have. And to be honest, this wouldn't be that bad of an L, but it's the fact he couldn't defeat Dooku. He couldn't defeat Palpatine. That's 2 times that he didn't win. And he's the Grand Master. He didn't win a single fight in the prequels. So this just accumulates more to one negative point. To end it on a positive, I'll give Yoda a positive point for the following 2 things. So number 1, he is the one that suggests to split up Luke and Leia, which shows some initiative for the first time in the prequels. He's actually thinking about the future and acting upon it, which is good. And he also tells Obi-Wan that he has training for him while he's on Tatooine, which is learning to commune with Qui-Gon. And the way Yoda's been holding in all this key information throughout the whole prequels, it's good to finally see him actually let out some good key information. Now, to kickstart The Empire Strikes Back, and I may be wrong with this, but I want to start off with a positive point, and it's when he starts displaying the crackhead energy and then he refuses to teach Luke. I feel like Yoda was tricking Luke the entire time. It was a test to see how Luke would react and see how much he wanted to be a Jedi. And for this approach, I'd actually give it the positive point. He knows that if he had have just acted normally and said he was Yoda from the beginning, then Luke would just respect him and not show the anger, the impatience, which is what Yoda wanted Luke to acknowledge about himself. It's actually a pretty smart tactic, to be honest, to make someone see their flaws in the way they've acted, so then they can assess the problem and start fixing it through the training. When Yoda actually trains Luke, he shows why he has the reputation that he does. I'll give him 2 positive points because number 1, he trains him well, he's very wise, and there's a lot of life lessons to be learned from all his teachings, and he's actually a good teacher when he bothers. Quotes like "do or do not, there is no try," "you must unlearn what you have learned," and many more have just become iconic to the brand, to the character. And furthermore, Yoda has kind of taken the Qui-Gon approach by this stage of his life. He appreciates the living force a lot more compared to the prequels where he was a lot more by the books of the Jedi Code. So I can appreciate this personally, as I am a Qui-Gon fan, and I feel like going through that approach makes you a lot wiser and strong with the Force. Reason number 2 being Luke can't become as powerful without Yoda's training, so he's at least responsible for at least the foundation of Luke's knowledge and power of the Force. Also, just because you're smart and wise, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good teacher. There's a bit more that you have to be a good teacher, and a lot of it involves how your student ends up turning out. So the fact that Luke became who he became, a lot of it is down to Yoda's teachings. And for those 2 reasons, that's why I'm giving the 2 positive points. Now, in Return of the Jedi, there's nothing wrong that he does, in my opinion, because unfortunately he passes in that film. So he has a short amount of screen time, so he doesn't do anything stupid and bad, but he doesn't do anything to earn points. And unfortunately, he appears in The Last Jedi. He does his role well. I don't want to give points for repetitive reasons, so I'm not going to give him any positive points, but as always, he hits with the facts, the wisdom, the greatest teacher failure is, and stuff like that. So again, he's not going to earn any points, but he does his role well, and that's about it. So to conclude, I do believe in the prequels, Yoda is a lot more different than the originals and Last Jedi. And the prequels version is quite frustrating. I feel like he sticks too much to Jedi codes, and ultimately he's the leader and the downfall of the Jedi. And I feel like the audience has given him a big pass for that. So I do believe more needs to be looked into that. And if it was Mace Windu or a different Jedi, the energy would be different. And one of the main reasons why I don't like Yoda in the prequels, he has this problem that if the answer isn't spelled out for him, he doesn't have any worries. He doesn't care about finding a solution ultimately. And he doesn't initiate things despite having a good knowledge of the Force. And it's almost like he's scared to be wrong. He also hangs on to a lot of useful information which he doesn't tell anyone about. And if he just told everyone can come together as a group and try to find solutions. Also, another thing, a lot of what Yoda says in the prequels is more, we must be careful, danger's around the corner, watch out guys. It's not really straight to the point. It's not showing a lot of wisdom, it's just pointing out the obvious. Then we come to the original trilogies. I have no clue what the guy did for 20 years on Dagobah, but it done him right. He's more in tune with the Force. He learns to trust the Force a lot more. It reminds me a lot of Qui-Gon, who let the Force guide him. This is my favorite Yoda. The original trilogy Yoda beats the prequels by far. He probably doesn't have the same dueling abilities and he's lost a lot of the sharpness, I guess, but this Yoda is the one I prefer more by far. I cannot stress that enough. So overall, for me, is Yoda a fraud? Probably in the prequels he is, and he manages to balance that out with the original trilogies in my opinion. But I feel to call him a fraud overall is quite harsh. But if you split it up into 2, I do believe he is quite fraudulent in the prequels. But in the original trilogies, he is easily a top 5, top 3 characters within just the original trilogies. And for me, in my overall ranking, I'd put him about 6th or 7th in my top 10. But yeah, appreciate you guys making it this far. Shout out to you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I will be back with more content. Hopefully I haven't offended anyone. It is just all opinion based, so don't worry. This isn't factual. It's just me giving an idea, giving a different approach to a character. But yeah, until the next one, hope you guys have a good rest of the day, and I'll